I am Sarah Banks from Banks' Business Solutions, and today I want to talk about small business financial management. Now, when you start a business, it can be really hard to know the best ways to manage your finances. So I'm going to share my top 5 tips today, and they all come from things that I've learned along the way after nearly 9 years in business, and also from some of the mistakes I've made. So the first thing I would say is plan for the worst case scenario and not the best. Something I didn't do early on was when clients paid me in advance, I would spend that money before I'd finished all of the work. And that meant that if something went wrong, which I did have a situation where it did, the money wasn't there for me to refund them. It had to come out of another pot, or so to speak, of money. So plan around the worst case scenarios. And also the other kind of worst case scenario that I came across was when I suddenly had to pay a year in advance for my tax. So when you go over a certain threshold, you have to pay the following year's tax as well. And I wasn't prepared for that, and therefore had to find extra money to do that as well. So that was my first tip: plan for the worst case scenario and not the best. Tip 2, make sure you're using some form of system to keep a track of everything. Now, this could be an online accountancy system, it could be a spreadsheet, it could be a combination of things. One thing I find really useful is that whilst I know what the balance of my bank account is actually having the money that's within that bank account in pots. So there's a tax pot, there's a pot for each client where they've paid in advance, there's a pot that covers bills that are coming up, there's a pot that covers money that's for me to pay myself with, and things like that. So using a spreadsheet for that outside of an accounting system can be quite useful as well. My third tip is to know when your bills are due, especially those big once a year expenses, and make sure you have the funds in place for them before they're needed. It can be really easy to just say, oh, there's money in my account, I'm going to pay myself some extra money this month, and then forget that you've got a bill coming up that needs to be paid. So make sure that you're ahead of the game, you know what bills are happening over the month and over the year, so you've got that money there. My fourth tip is to keep on top of your invoicing. It can be really easy to leave your invoicing for 2 or 3 months and then suddenly go, oh my gosh, I need to get this money in now. It's much better to do little and often. So invoicing once a month, which means your cash flow keeps running, coming in. You've always got money coming in and out of the business, so you know that's there. And try to build a reserve from that rather than relying on what's coming in to cover everything. So even if that means reducing expenses a little bit, to build up that reserve and not always buying the latest thing if you don't need it. And my final tip is don't be afraid to ask for help. I remember coming to the end of my first year in business and having this whole conversation with myself and others around whether I should get an accountant in to help me with my self-assessment. Now, there's pros and cons to having an accountant, and it's what's right for you. But for me, having an accountant has made my self-assessment so much easier. I've not had to worry about what is allowable, what isn't allowable, what can I put through for working from home and all those things, because all that's done for me. So if you are struggling, ask for help. I hope that these tips have been useful to you. Please do share your thoughts and comments below, and I hope you'll join me on another video soon. Bye for now.